Alright, I'm just gonna say it. Cars suck. But wait, why do cars suck? And also, if cars suck, why the heck am I driving one? Also, who am I? Well, to answer that first one, I'm Kyler. I'm a college student studying architecture. But for the answers to the rest of those questions, let me introduce you to my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa is a great example of an average American city. It's mid-sized with a metro area population of just over 1 million people. Its location is fairly central in the US. Its layout is fairly typical by US standards. At its core, there's a historic central business district known simply as Downtown. Located near a bend of a river, downtown Tulsa's streets are grid-based, mostly lying perpendicular or parallel to the railroad tracks that cut through the city. Beyond downtown, the city mostly consists of car-dependent sprawl.
And that, my friends, is where my beef with cars begins. There's that asterisk again. Let's zoom in a little bit closer and see what that's all about. Technically, my beef is not with cars themselves, it's with car-centric sprawl. So let's define what that means.
Car-dependent sprawl refers to places where cars are seen as the default mode of transportation, and where most people drive on a daily basis. If you're going to work, to school, to a grocery store, pharmacy, or restaurant, you always hop in the car. You drive a few miles to your destination, and you're almost always able to park in a free parking spot for as long as you like. So what's the problem? A street primarily designed to accommodate cars is incredibly wide, so buildings get pushed apart. Also, we need huge empty paved lots to accommodate all of the free parking we desire. Once we've done all of this, the space between buildings is so vast that walking between buildings is just entirely impractical, especially in the hot Oklahoma sun. And that, unfortunately, is the answer to one of my questions from earlier.
Why the heck am I driving?
In his book Energy and Equity, Ivan Illich says beyond a certain speed, motorized vehicles create remoteness, which they alone can shrink. They create distances for all and shrink them for only a few. The cost of driving has been more noticeable to all of us recently as gas prices continue to skyrocket. But while car payments and fueling up are the most obvious costs of driving, you can't forget about insurance, registrations, tolls, vehicle maintenance, and speeding tickets. But even beyond what you are directly paying, there's all kinds of hidden costs that are soaked up by society, like highway and street maintenance, property damage, and medical bills, the cost of which impacts us whether we realize it or not, and even whether we drive or not.
We can't pay for things like social programs or like helping out the homeless because we spend the vast majority of our funds repaving streets.
When we buy gas, we feel like the cost of driving is 15 cents per mile. The true cost per mile is really more like $1.37. Most of my friends drive at least 10 miles a day, meaning that they're spending around $14 a day or $5,000 per year just to get around. In 2021, 42,915 people were claimed by fatal traffic incidents in the US. 69 of those were in Tulsa, and 1/3 of those in Tulsa were pedestrians. At any given time, right now, as you're watching this video, there are approximately 2,700 Americans in hospitals due to a car crash injury. That's 1 million days spent in hospitals every year because of cars. On top of everything else, vehicles are responsible for a huge chunk of greenhouse gas emissions. Not to mention, they're powered by fossil fuels, which have to be extracted, transported, and refined. And even electric vehicles require mining and shipping of stuff like lithium and cobalt.
Okay, I get it. Cars suck. But what does a non-car dependent place even look like?
Let's take a mind journey. Somewhere so far away that no cars can take me there. Italy. Something I noticed while studying abroad in Rome this past semester was that it was really easy to get around Italy without a car. In fact, in my 3.5 months living in and traveling around the country, I did not drive a single mile. This is due to 2 factors. First of all, within the cities, the majority of places I wanted to go were really close together, so I could easily walk. This is what big nerds refer to as density. For example, If you were suddenly teleported from where you are now to a random spot in Rome, you would almost certainly be within a 10-minute walk of a grocery store, restaurant, and at least 3 coffee shops. These kinds of things occupy the first floors of most buildings, and then apartments, offices, and classrooms occupy the 2 to 4 floors above that. This layout means that people can live, work, shop, and dine all within a short walking distance of each other. But sometimes you want to go somewhere very specific that's a little bit further away. I'm looking at you, Colosseum. Sure, you could walk for an hour or 2 or 3, but that's a lot of effort. Rome has made it super easy to take a bus from pretty much any starting point to pretty much any destination. The city has 338 bus lines that weave throughout its tangle of ancient streets. These all run on a fairly frequent schedule, with approximately 30 minutes between each bus on a typical route. In reality, the buses are often much more frequent than that in the busiest parts of the city, since multiple bus routes overlap on many of the streets. Short trips in these busiest parts of the city are often possible to make on any one of 3 or 4 overlapping bus routes, meaning you probably won't have to wait more than 10 to 15 minutes at the longest. While traveling around the country, I realized that in every Italian city I visited, this combination of density and transit allows everyone to move around freely and comfortably to access any part of the city without a car. And speaking of traveling around the country, you can even use public transit to do that. You can get from Rome to almost any other city or town in Italy through a combination of the high-speed and regional rail networks and the regional bus network. All of these services operate at a fairly frequent schedule themselves. In fact, a high-speed train travels from Rome to Verona every hour. I know, because I missed the train my classmates and family were all on and had to catch the next one exactly 1 hour later. But I'm getting a little off topic.
I can already imagine the comments.
That part about Italy was very cool, but Tulsa and Rome are 2 very different places. It's not comparable. Tulsa was designed for cars, and it will always be a car-centric city. Changing that would be a nearly impossible task.
And to that imaginary commenter, I say, you're right, kinda.
The goal of this channel will be to show you concrete examples of ways we can start pivoting our city away from car dependency and towards that magic walkability recipe we uncovered in Italy: density plus transit. I will be talking to experts, designers, community leaders, and everyday people to try to determine why our city looks the way it does, and to develop creative solutions to help make cities like Tulsa better. If you want to get involved in future videos, especially if you're familiar with Tulsa, join the Discord linked in the description. And if you're feeling generous, feel free to support me on Patreon. This will be a lot of work, so I'm going to need as much help as I can get.
And hopefully, if we're able to make enough noise with this channel, we can actually take this nearly impossible task of eliminating car dependency in Tulsa and make it a reality.